Very much. So my budget is the HR budget, and it's probably more akin to the CAO's budget versus the Housing and Social Services budget. Pretty straightforward. I have three programs that I deliver. That's Human Resources, Health and Wellness, and Health and Safety. The Wellness is actually the Wellness Committee, and that's new to the HR portfolio this year. And that is the funds that fund the activities of the Wellness Committee, and that entire budget's $10,000. So we'll really focus on what's happening in the Human Resources and Health and Safety area. So both of those budgets are primarily we're a service delivery department, so we deliver services. So primarily, we're powered by people. And so most of the costs that are in this budget are in and around the support of people and paying the budgets, what's attached to that. So when you look at having the staff and you have an office, obviously you've got their salaries, you have your benefits, and then you have the tools and equipment that they need to get their job done, and also some training, travel costs that are related to that. So that's primarily what we have happening. Now, I only have two pressure categories in all of my budgets, and that's maintain services and service initiatives. And so as the other...
Pardon me, Director Nero, I wonder if we can just change it on the screen because it's quite small to be able to...
Give it a couple more clicks there and then hit that one there.
This one,
Or sorry, that little arrow right there.
oops. Yep.
That's relatively scary when the words give a computer,
Well, you know what? Yeah, I was going to say, maybe we can get rid of that. Oh,
That is
didn't
scary,
work.
isn't it?
Okay, that didn't work at all. We went from bad to worse. How was that for you? Not good. We were at 33, I think. That's the Excel one, not,
That's the Excel.
You want
yeah, yeah. There we go.
Did I open the wrong one?
Nope, you're down, you're in the right place.
How do I get rid of the right side, Donna?
It's not working.
Keeps coming up with that. Did you have a suggestion, Kelly? Thank you. Is that where you want to be?
Let's take a look where we are.
You want the summary one?
Yeah, I think
Down.
I'll worry about this.
You want
Whoops.
to go down?
Yep, you're right. Yeah. Much better. That's a little bit large, but that's okay.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Okay, so we're back online here. So as we talked about, we have two main budgets, that's Human Resources and Health and Safety. So Within those, we did have a committee approved last year, and thank you very much, because it's made a substantial difference in my department, an increase in headcount. So we have one additional person in HR. The HR department also within it has a payroll department. So of the 11 headcount that you see for both HR and health and safety, 3 of those individuals are in the payroll department. One person is in health and safety. So the rest of the staff are delivering HR services. There was a one-time transfer of accounts this year, similar to other departments, where we moved 1.5 headcount from the HR budget over to the health and safety budget. So the 2 roles that were moved over the 1.5 are the wellness and labor relations role and half of the director's role. So that's why you're going to see the little bit of confusion with negatives and positives back and forth between the 2. So when we look at the 17 budget, you won't see that one-time change again. So within the maintained, we're looking at the cost of living increase as far as the salaries go, but also some changes that are related to that organizational change. So we did have a person promoted to a supervisory position as part of that. And so there was a slight change in salary related to that role. And there was also a market review done in our health and safety department for the health and safety manager. And so there was a little bit of market over and above what you would normally have seen with cost of living increase as well over the 15 budget. So that counts for that. So really the area to focus in on as far as other types of costs are those related to contract costs and special projects. So with that, we are delivering in the HR department 2 services that are already embedded in the budget from 2015, which are substantial, and that is both Acclaim and Avante. So with the Acclaim, those are the outside consultants that manage our short-term disability medical side of the program. And so their annual fee to us as the county is $65,000. And so that number is already embedded. And then we have ongoing maintenance fees that are associated with Avante. And that's around $25,000. Now, next year, you'll probably see that go up a bit because as we continue to develop the Avante system, the maintenance fees increase with that. So we'll see a slight change in what's happening that. We also provide an online health and safety training module called HR Downloads, and so that's also embedded in the normal costs, and that's around $10,000. As far as new initiatives go this year under the consulting, we would be looking at going to an online software program with Harvard Management Group, and so I don't know if we can get into a little bit more under the HR side. So some of the money is already embedded in the baseline, and then of course the rest of it's embedded under the service initiative, and you'll see that that $40,000 is there. And so that's to support this new online training with Harvard Management, and also monies that committee has now approved as of last week for the job evaluation, pay equity, and market review, and related software to that as well. And so that really comprises that adopted number of $130,000. So when we get into the health and safety, there are a number of initiatives there as well. So let's just see where we're going to go. And so those, we already have initiatives already embedded in there, but I'm going to look for a little bit more detail here. Okay, well, embedded in there are a couple of different projects that they're going to be undertaking. And so they're undertaking automated MSDS sheets, ergonomic assessments, baseline hearing, and also lockout tagout. Now, right now, that department is also delivering an audit on health and safety, and they're using the WorkWell audit tool to be able to do that. But the only costs that are related to that are already direct staff costs, so there were no outside consultants consultants involved in that. So you won't see, although that project is moving along very well and should be finished by the end of April, you won't actually see any costs related to that within the budget itself. And so really, we don't have anything coming in as far as any other grants or anything like that, so ours is pretty straightforward.
Okay, any questions for Mary Ann? Milt?
Yeah, Marianne, same question as I had before with regards to, and I'm on the summary page 29. And once again, I'm looking at our own funds and transfer from reserves. And it would appear, so it looks like it's 424,000. It changed. So it's 593.
Right. And that's related to the transfer of the 1.5 headcount out of the HR budget into the health and safety budget. And of course, the health and safety budget is funded from reserves. And so that's why you'll see that one-time change.
So the 424,000
Correct.
from reserve, the
WSIB.
WSIB.
Correct.
So going forward, what happens?
We'll now maintain 2.5 headcounts in the health and safety budget and the remaining headcounts in HR.
But for funding for next year, do you do this again next year, or is this an impact on our budget?
Well, because it comes out of reserves, it's not a direct impact on the budget, but it will continue to be pulled from reserves. The reserves are built every year as well. So the reserves are being built out of an allocation that comes from each department.
So we have enough money to pull from reserves every year, 424,000.
Through you, Mr. Warden, each other department funds, well, actually HR funds as well, I suppose, when I think about it, anyone who has staff, they fund into the WSIB reserve, and then this is the drawdown from the WSIB reserve.
But we're transferring about 1.4 million a year, correct?
Yeah.
For a year.
Yeah, so it's similar to what we talked about with the capital with the housing services. We put in so much and we draw down so much, and there is risk associated with that because we constantly have to monitor it to make sure that we're not potentially drawing out more than we're contributing.
Three something, 3 point.
Yeah. We just had an actuarial evaluation done, which needs to come back to committee, and we'll have the number from there.
All right, no, that was my question. It just seems like a lot of money to be funding every year. Other reserve, but if it's that kind of money, if we're putting that kind of money in.
Through you, Mr. Warden, I'm going to pass it over to the Director of Corporate Services, and then I'll add to whatever.
I think as our Director Nero said, that there is the actuarial review that was completed in 2015. So that report is due to corporate services, and at that point you would get a full analysis of what the balance is in that reserves, what we are contributing. So what this does is, in the past, we have had reports that have indicated that our level of reserve is adequate and perhaps even overfunded. So that's why that it was felt that it was appropriate to change the health and safety program to finance even a greater amount. So this would become stable in years to come, that transfer. But in fact, there is some risk, as the CIO indicated. But we felt that upon review of the WSIB reserve and the actuarial information, that we were able to make that adjustment. But it indeed is a significant change from 2015 to 2016. And certainly, as was indicated, it will be monitored very closely and to ensure. But it's also showing that we're making an investment in the health and safety program that should reduce the costs that are related to us as a WSIB Schedule II employer.
I didn't realize we were putting that much in.
We continue to, each of the budgets continue to include the cost for WSIB if we were a Schedule 1 employer, so we self-insure ourselves, but the funds that we raise from the budget are as if we were a Schedule 1 employer, transferred directly to the reserve, and any costs associated, and then the cost of the health and safety program, in addition to a cost of a transfer to by being a Schedule 2 employer, we should be able to reap the savings, and that is then brought into our non-departmental budget to offset the levy. And over the years, we've increased that as well as a bit of a balancing factor, but also to recognize the job and that the savings are passed on. And that was the unadjusted at the end of 2015, but there were adjustments that were still to come, I think, as the Deputy Treasurer had indicated.
This is the first time we've taken from this reserve.
Annually, we started, I think, a number of years ago to recognize that we were continuing to charge for WSIB, and then it was appropriate that those savings would be passed on, and it was we started out, I think, several years ago at maybe $75,000, and it's built to, and this is going to be a test, I think at this point in our non-departmental, it's maybe $400,000, but we can confirm that number for certain.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Did you want to wrap up, Kelly?
I can certainly, through you, Mr. Warden. The design for today was to really take it down a level in terms of, meaning drill down into the detail a bit more. And the feedback that has been received will take back with department heads and start to sort of talk it through in terms of if we make any type of slight tweaking to it, what should that be? But as a starting point, we'll certainly ensure on a go-forward basis that everyone receives the Excel format, and that there will be laptops when we have these reviews, so that the follow-through is very straightforward. The other part is in terms of the pressure categories, as we talked, in particular the growth category, as Director McDonald highlighted in her area, there's an increase being driven that's right now being reported under growth, and ideally we don't want to see that on a go-forward basis, because in that particular subject area, that's indicative that as a region, we need to again invest to expand our economic development so that our citizens and our youth have opportunity. So,
If I could just clarify, the WSIB reserve transfer in the 2016 budget, just for non-departmental purposes, is $475,000. Transfer from reserves to offset the levy. And then we will provide you with an update on the actuarial amounts as to how much what we transfer in to that reserve, the in and out over the course of the year. We will provide that information at a future meeting with the update from the actuarial.
Okay, if there's nothing else, there is no closed meeting this morning. So, next meeting, April 7th. And again, that is at the museum. Do I have a mover for adjournment? Milt and Paul, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Thank you.